Within days, the entire east wing of the White House will be completely demolished. That updated timeline comes from two Trump administration officials to NBC News yesterday. And as the president continues to defend the rapidly expanding scale and price of his addition of a massive ballroom to the People's House.
I think it'll be one of the great ballrooms anywhere in the world. It's about $300 million. It's set to do many, many things, including meetings of foreign leaders, including the honoring of foreign leaders. In order to do it properly, we had to take down the existing structure. The way it was shown, it looked like we were touching the White House. We don't touch the White House.
The president had initially said the total cost of this new ballroom would be $250 million. He's now increased that price tag to $300 million. The National Trust for Historic Preservation, a nonprofit agency created by Congress, cautioned against this project, saying the space would, quote, overwhelm the White House itself. That's because the president has said the ballroom's expected to be 90,000 square feet. The agency says the entire rest of the White House is currently only 55,000 square feet. They also questioned the administration's delay in submitting plans to the requisite agencies before this work began. The White House argues semantics. It's not required to submit plans for review yet because only demolition work has begun, technically not construction. The ballroom is being funded by private donors and the president himself. And we should note that Comcast, the parent company of NBC Universal, was included on a list of top donors to this project. Joining us now, national political reporter for the Wall Street Journal, Ken Thomas. Ken, what are you hearing from your sources about this demolition and the fact that it's now overpriced, potentially over budget? I mean, those were words that the president, back during his first campaign, used to say. I came in early and under budget. Right. Was that the case here?
We knew this was coming. We knew that the work was going to start this fall. But I think there's a shock value here in seeing the photos of the East Wing being demolished, and that it's just a larger project than we had anticipated, both in the amount of money, as you noted, but also the size. Yeah. I think there's just a sense that the White House often does change based on a president, a first lady. There are changes made, modifications made, but this will be the most significant one that we've had since the Truman balcony was installed in the late 1940s. And, this is a project that really, I think, says a lot about a president who wants to make his legacy known. He's paved over the Rose Garden to make it look like the patio at Mar-a-Lago. Yeah. He's made other changes throughout the White House. They're talking about an arc. Arc
de Triomphe.
Exactly. So, this is a president who really cares about leaving his imprint. And it's almost, in the eye of the beholder. I think Democrats are going to see this as a symbol for a president who just tears down, the norms, and Republicans and the White House will say, well, this has always been part of him. He's that builder in chief that we've always known.
But he's doing it now against the backdrop of a 23-day shutdown that has no end in sight. People are struggling to pay their bills. Food banks are saying that they're seeing 100+% increases in people coming to access them. No one knows when it's over, and yet he's spending hundreds of millions of dollars on a White House redecoration that nobody really asked for. I mean, how are they squaring that?
No, it opens him up to criticism that he cares about opulence and appearances and having a nice ballroom when, people are suffering. The question, does that stick, though? And does it stick with his base, the people who elected him? We don't really have a lot of evidence yet that there's been, a lot of blowback. But this is an early story.
Yet I do think it was telling that there has been reporting that they asked Treasury Department officials who would be able to look down over at the White House just because of where everything is situated, not to take pictures, not to take videos, kind of noting the fact that they know there's public outcry to this and they want to control the visual narrative, at least for now. I thought that was telling. But, Ken, there's a few other stories I want to get you on, as always, when you come here. Among them this: the United States is imposing new sanctions targeting Russia's two largest oil companies, along with dozens of their subsidiaries. The Treasury Department made that announcement yesterday. These sanctions may extend beyond just the companies named in the initial announcement. The Wall Street Journal, your paper, highlights the warning in the sanctions notice that, quote, foreign financial institutions that conduct or facilitate significant transactions or provide any service involving Russia's military-industrial base also run the risk of being sanctioned. Since Russia launched its full-scale war on Ukraine, its lucrative oil industry has been the primary source of funding for its war effort. Yesterday, in the Oval Office, President Trump discussed this new move.
Today is a very big day in terms of what we're doing. Look, these are tremendous sanctions. These are very big. Those are against their two big oil companies, and we hope that they won't be on for long. We hope that the war will be settled. I just felt it was time. We've waited a long time. I thought that we'd go long before the Middle East. And Mark, as you know, we did the Middle East plus 7. So we did 7 different wars from Pakistan and India to so many.
Azerbaijan, Armenia,
which they said was impossible to do. All these wars I did, and the one that we have left, we have one left. It'll be 9. We have one left, and I think we'll get that done too. I think we're on our way to getting it done.
We have to.
So we've seen from the president not always a willingness to be tough on Putin, but he has done indirect sanctions through India, other countries. This, of course, not coming in a vacuum. The fact that they're doing these sanctions against Russian oil companies at the same time as they are pulling down a meeting that had been previously confirmed for Putin and Trump in Budapest, Hungary. What's going on here?
Yeah, I think this reflects the frustration that the president has over the pace of these lack of really negotiations over Ukraine and settling this war. You know, he has said before that, you know, he thought he could bring the two sides to the table. They had talked about this meeting in Budapest. But, you know, he said in the White House, in the Oval Office yesterday, that every time I get on the phone with Putin, we have a good call, but then nothing happens. So I think this is a tool in their toolkit. This is a step that they can take, and it's a significant one. You know, these are the two, you know, largest oil companies within Russia. You know, I think a lot of this will hinge on the follow through, whether, you know, they're able to ensure that, you know, India and China does not, you know, violate these sanctions. We're going to see the president meeting with Xi when he's in South Korea soon. So, you know, a lot of this will you know, depend on the follow up. But this is a significant step, and it's a risky one. You know, this could affect, you know, people's, you know, at the gas pump. So
yeah, which you and I were talking in the makeup room before we came out here about the fact that this is something President Biden actually entertained doing and ultimately pulled back on it because of that concern.
Exactly, yeah. And there are risks involved, certainly.
There are risks involved, certainly, but a change in tactic, and we'll see if that ultimately changes where the diplomatic efforts are right now. Of course, there is an open question of why do it this way as opposed to the Senate sanctions package that has really just been sitting there for months now with more than 85 co-sponsors. But I think if that's still in the wings, we'll see if there's movement on it. Still a notable step here. The Wall Street Journal's Ken Thomas breaking it all down for us. Thank you, as always.